Welcome back to this week's episode of the From the Spot podcast. Today, I'm just joined by Owen, so it's going to be a nice quiet podcast tonight. Not too many varying opinions. But I mean, I guess we'll start with the fixtures coming up tonight. Obviously, it would have already happened when you're listening to it. But Liverpool-Everton, two clubs that necessarily aren't where they want to be in the table. Everton have got Sean Dyche, which is obviously boosting them a little bit. We saw that shock result against Arsenal. Do you reckon they can do it again tonight? Or have you got full faith in your team to get the result?
I mean, I always want to say that I've got full faith in Liverpool. I want to go into every game and hope that, we're going to come away with the 3 points. But the way, the situation that we're in right now, with the poor form that's been running now for weeks, if not months, and then every team seems to get a new manager and ride that wave for a while. And Everton don't look to be doing very much different there. I think they've got Sean Dyche in, and last week against Arsenal they looked really good. No one really saw that coming. I think Arsenal have been proven the critics wrong for week after week, and they finally, this week as well with their draw, they're starting to look a little bit shaky. I think they're fine. They were due this little shake, but Everton got the better of them last week, and yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan, man. I'm gonna back Liverpool every single time. I'm gonna say 3-0 Liverpool. It's not gonna. I don't know if that happens, but I think. I mean, I've just got to be against any other opposition. I'm gonna be realistic about it. But against Everton, I just have to back us every single time because I just can't even think about Everton beating us.
I mean, another bit going on at the bottom of the table really with Southampton as well, haven't they? They sacked Nathan Jones yesterday. He's only played, 14 games, I think, in charge? Lost 9? Something like that?
I didn't even think it was that many, to be honest. I thought he'd been in less than that.
And it feels like he's only been there since November, which when you think you've had the World Cup break and everything, it doesn't feel like long. But yeah, so he's gone. And you think, okay, so Everton have got Sean Dyche in, proven manager, can get results with little budgets and work with what he's got. What's Southampton going to do? Nathan Jones, he's took the step up from Luton, was doing well at Luton. Where does he go from here? And where does Southampton go from here? Because Marcelo Bielsa, I can't see him wanting to go there. It's really a case of Sam Allardyce, really, isn't it? I think that's the only option they've got.
Yeah, well, I think, obviously, Leeds, we spoke about it last week with Leeds. Where do they go now? Where does Southampton go now? And it's not really a great market out there for top-level managers right now, especially ones that have experience in relegation battles in the Premier League. So I think that it's a really difficult situation to be in, but also I can't blame Southampton for the decision that they have made. I think Nathan Jones made an absolute fool of himself on a number of occasions. His interviews were just completely negative. He was always saying the wrong stuff. And
did you see that one where he was on about, he could have stayed in Wales in this little mining town, married a Welsh woman and been happy with his life? And it's like, okay, fair enough, fair play to you, mate. But it's got nothing to do with football. And he just detracts away from his awful performances with stuff that's got absolutely no relevance. And like you said, deflects the blame onto everyone else except himself.
Yeah, well, I mean,
what he's done in those press conferences is just ruin his chances of getting another job in elite tier management. I don't think we'll ever see him in the Premier League again.
Well, I was thinking about this earlier today, actually. I was thinking, you've got so many managers now that are looking for jobs and so many vacancies, but he's made an absolute fool of himself. He's not given any sort of... It's not even as if, he was doing this in the media and coming across as, a bit of an arse in the media. It's now that it's also poor performances coupled with that. No club in the Premier League is going to look at him and go, yeah, we want him, at the reins. He's just going to derail clubs, and with 14 games, the way he's been going, I'm surprised he got that far, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense, does it? How you can be so... It shows the gap as well, I suppose, between the Championship and the Premier League. He was pushing for Premier League promotion last season with Luton, and now he's got one win. I think his one win came against Lincoln City. It's a gap in quality, definitely.
I mean, you saw, Saturday's result against Wolves as well. They're 1-0 up. They go down, then Wolves go down to 10 men, and they still win 2-1. And it's just that club.
They just can't hold on to results, can they?
No, they are so porous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal as well, I suppose, dropping points and everything. It's shown that this season isn't necessarily the easiest season to get results in, and it is a bit unpredictable. But when you won the lap against the side with 10 men, and I think the red card was like 27th minute, do you know what I mean? You've got a good 60 minutes to just hold on to that result. Do you know what I mean? Even if you ain't going to push for a second, hold on to the one you've got.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think being in a relegation battle, you tend to see teams sort of a little bit more vigor, a little bit more, they want to go out there and roll their sleeves up and get it done. But the Southampton team, they just look lifeless.
And it's like, I've not heard much about James Ward-Prowse recently either. Do you know what I mean? Like a player that's for so long been regarded as someone that can come into any team, bring life to it, offer that quality from set pieces. It's been quiet from him as well. I don't know how many he's actually scored under Nathan Jones, but
I mean, obviously he's scored a few free kicks this season, hasn't he? But like, besides that, you really haven't heard a lot about him. And I guess it's difficult, in a struggling team to get your name out there and shine a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him in the summer if Southampton do go down, because he's obviously an extremely talented player. He's got, I don't know how old he is now, maybe 26, 27-ish. I don't know, I might be completely off there. But yeah, he's got plenty of years ahead of him still at the top level, and I can't see him wasting any time with Southampton in the Championship. He's too good for that.
I think, to be fair, if Tielemans leaves or Maddison leaves us in the summer, I can see him coming to us. I mean, it's like a perfect replacement for a Tielemans or someone like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way things are going for Leicester at the moment, they looked unbelievably good against Tottenham.
I know, I can't believe it. I really can't. Do you know what I've been saying for so long, that Brendan Rodgers isn't the right man to get us out of the situation we're in. He's taken us as far as he can with that FA Cup and the Community Shield. But recently, I think it's the signings. I really do. I think Tese, if we can get him on a longer deal, he will be sensational for us. He fixes that right winger gap that we've had since Mahrez left, really. Barnes has come to life as well. He's a player that
so good against Tottenham.
I can get the hype for him, but at the same time, whenever I go and watch him, he doesn't do a lot. He doesn't impress me. He's good, but nothing standout-ish. But I think with him, Iheanacho, Tete, that front three is dangerous. Maddison just behind as well. And the defensive signings have been world class. Do you know what I mean? No one would expect Harry Souttar and Victor Christiansen to really come in and change a team the way they have done. But we've been defensively solid. Yeah, there was that own goal from Souttar on his debut, but really Ward should have done better with that. And I think Christiansen on that left flank, like, he's so much better than Luke Thomas, who gave the ball away every time he got it. We've been smart with our signings, I think, not necessarily splashing the cash, but what we have spent has been really, really good investment, and it shows that maybe, our scouts aren't as bad as they maybe get the rep for.
Yeah, well, I think, like you said, Harry Souttar, obviously unlucky for the own goal. I mean, you can't really put that down too much to him. Like you said, Ward could have probably done better with that, but at the end of the day, he's looked really good. I mean, that very lucky tackle into Iheanacho's feet against Tottenham, but when it's going for you, it's going for you. And at the moment for Leicester, it seems like they are on a bit of a roll. They are playing out of their skin at the moment. And if you rewind to October time, you're thinking, oh God, they could be in a bit of a relegation battle here. But now you think, they're probably finishing the top half of the table if they continue going the way they are. But it's going to be a really difficult. I think from positions 7 to 15, there's not going to be a lot in it, to be honest.
No, and I suppose off the pitch as well, we're doing quite well because Kuntop's paid off the 200 million odd debt that we owed King Power. So I suppose finances wise, we're on a fresh slate. It's not to say that we've got 200 mil we can go and spend, but we've not got that 200 million debt looming over us. We are financially in a better position now than we were 2 weeks ago. And I think for investors looking to pump money into the club or even just signings, you know what I mean? We are in a better place, and it looks as if this could really be the start of things going up for us.
Yeah,
so it'd be quite nice to have that at Liverpool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. The worst thing is we haven't even got debt to blame it on. I don't know what's going on there with our spending. I think obviously you look back 10 years and we were in debt, but then Fenway Sports Group came in, they paid off our debts, and you think, oh, that's a massive investment straight away. Put money into the stadium, new training centre. They've invested in the squad to an extent, but it's looking like now we're coming to the end of a lifeline. end of a cycle even with this squad. Those last two trophies last year were probably the culmination of this squad. And I think that there's been rumours coming out the last few days. They're going to give Klopp 250 million in the summer to rebuild the squad. But I think 250 million is just the midfield. Honestly, I think we're so devout of, it's not even options, it's the quality of those options. We've got Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, Bajetic, Elliott, Carvalho, Ox, Milner. Like, we've got all of these players in midfield, but half of them.
It's what you needed that 250 mil maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I think
now at the stage where your quality options that you've relied on for so long are just too old and they can't do it. Well, they can't do it consistently anyway.
Well, I've got a piece coming out later this week about Fabinho and his drop off. And 12 months ago he's the best GM in the world, and now he's getting 15 minutes at the end of a match, looking like he's going to get sent off, looking like he's going to get beaten 4 or 5 times, and it's just, how has that happened? And you understand this. Oh, they play at a high intensity. The legs are gone. You're a professional football player. Yeah, everyone's legs are gone. Everyone's playing those games. Everyone's tired. Like, I'm sorry, but when you have a level that is, up here, you can't 12 months later be down here and have no real reasoning for it. You're 29 years old. You're not 35.
And that's the thing as well. People just forget how old these players are. And it's easy to say, okay, his downturns down to age, but it's not. It's just, whether it's a lack of effort or there's something behind the scenes we're not seeing, and his training's maybe not to the level it was. When the club aren't open about things and there's no clear reason, it does leave the fans a bit confused sometimes, doesn't it? I suppose, as to why or even how things like this are happening.
Yeah, well, I think it does worry me as a Liverpool fan. You've got to look at it and be like, there's clearly something going on behind the scenes that's not being talked about and that's not being put in the limelight, because you've got Julian Ward. He's been in the position for 6 months as sporting director and he's already on his way out. And we've got non-playing staff leaving left and right. We've got playing staff that are past their prime, and Jurgen Klopp looks like he's aged about 5 years in the last 6 months. I feel sorry for the guy. He's an absolutely world-class manager, the best we've had in decades, and he just won't. They won't back him, and I don't understand why.
No.
Hopefully, obviously they've got this sustainable business model. You don't take any money away from the club. You don't put money into the club. You just sort of work on a net spend FC sort of thing. And obviously with the Alisson and Van Dijk signings, off the Coutinho money. But there's no real player in that squad you look at the moment and go, well, we could sell him for 150 million, reinvest that. Maybe Salah, but
even he's dropped off a little bit, and he's not at the level he has been for the last couple of seasons. It's not just 1 or 2 players; it's the whole squad.
There's just issues top to bottom. I think the only player that you can even say has kept any sort of form is Alisson, and that's only because he's been forced to keep that form. Without him, I wouldn't even dread to think where we are. Right? If that, honestly.
Yeah.
If that. I think massive overhaul is needed. I read something the other day about centre-back being a position we're looking at as well now, with obviously Matip looking aged. Gomez struggles to stay fit, and I'm not even sure centre-back's his best position personally. Kanate is going to be world-class, but again, struggles to stay fit. Van Dijk, back in training this week, still one of the best centre-backs in the world, but 31 now. He's going to be moving on soon. It's just a very, very old squad.
I suppose even when you look at the money you have spent as well, Cody Gakpo, he's not exactly set the world on fire since he signed, has he?
No, well, that's the thing as well. I do feel sorry for him, because, especially him and Nunez, because, they've come into a team was one of the best in the world, probably expecting to hit the ground running and score goals, set goals up, play with some of the best players in the world, and all of a sudden the shots aren't coming, the chances aren't coming. Not only does our defence look bad, our attacks looks toothless, and that's probably down to the midfield not being the link between those two things. Gakpo has looked... I want him to do well, of course I want him to do well, but he hasn't really shown me much, if anything. I think 7, maybe 8 games in now. No real threat. I mean, we're playing him as a striker, and we're playing Darwin Nunez as a left winger. They literally play the opposite positions. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's just there's just so many question marks being a Liverpool fan right now, and it's just, I believe in Klopp, I believe in the club, and I think we'll bounce back. But it's just a season that's going to be, forgettable for a long time.
Because that was a big question I was going to ask, and I suppose you kind of answered it there. Klopp in or Klopp out? Because, he's done a lot for this club, and he is the best manager you've had in recent years. But when there's performances that just don't make sense and line-up decisions that just don't make sense, like you said, Gakpo and Nunez switching positions, where do you draw the line and say, okay, actually, enough's enough?
I don't think there is any line that could be crossed with Jurgen Klopp. I think the only thing that gets him sacked is a relegation, even, and that's not going to happen in my eyes, and probably every single Liverpool fan listening to this or who has any opinion on Klopp has been watching the club for years now. Jurgen Klopp is the god amongst men at Liverpool, and he's not going to. I think if FSG were to get rid of him, there's riots. That they're going to be out the club right behind him. Jurgen Klopp for me is the number one asset that we have at the club. I'd rather rebuild the entire squad than get rid of Jurgen Klopp, to be honest, because like you said earlier, there's not really many great options out there.
I suppose with Pep saying as well that even though, despite what he said last year about leaving City if these rumours of financial misconduct are true, he's now come out and denied that and said he's staying. I suppose that takes another manager potentially off the table as well for a lot of other clubs. Not saying he would have gone to Liverpool, but do you know what I mean? For other clubs around Europe, maybe would have been looking to kind of secure his signature if things do turn out that City have breached all of these guidelines. But they haven't got the option now. He said he's staying at City. That's where he belongs. And if Klopp stays at Liverpool, then there are no elite managers that are free. You've got no one. And I don't get at the moment why so many clubs are on a short run of bad form. Okay, Southampton was a bit longer than short, but they've got bad form. I'm talking about Leeds in particular. And I think the best option is just sack the manager and everything will be bright and, they'll come back to it and they'll rise back up the league. They won't. There's no better options. You're better off, in my opinion, giving your manager a little bit of time to the end of the season, halfway through next season. And if you're in the same position then sack them, when there's maybe different candidates on the table you can get. But at the moment, there's nobody. And no one is an improvement on what you've already got.
I think you're right. I mean, you look at, there's a few managers out there, maybe Zinedine Zidane, Pochettino, but are they going to be going to these sort of clubs? Definitely not. These big names, I mean, could you ever see Zidane managing Southampton? It's just not a realistic prospect. So it's a really weird landscape out there at the moment in the football world, as in there's a lot of clubs making decisions, seems very prematurely, very reactionary. I think if you look at Jesse Marsh, and you look at Leeds, I think you could definitely see that there was something he was trying to build. Probably just a team of Americans, but at least he has some sort of vision. With Nathan Jones at Southampton, I didn't understand what he was trying to do with the squad. I didn't understand where he was going as a manager, what his ideas were. So yeah, it's a weird one. It is a really weird one for football clubs out there at the moment. I mean, I'll be honest with you, before Southampton, I hadn't really heard of Nathan Jones. I knew he was kind of successful with Luton, but I don't think, like you said earlier, I don't think he's going to be back to this level now.
No. I think the only way he's got is if he takes on a lower league club and gets him to the Prem. Because then they can't really sack him straight away, can they?
And if he shows
I don't think he'll
some
stay there for long.
maturity. I think.
But, I mean, if you look at Southampton, they're bottom of the league, 3 points behind Bournemouth, and they've not exactly been impressive either. They've got 15 points from 22 games. Even Everton are doing better. They're 3 points ahead, and they've got a game in hand over Southampton. They're going down. I mean, I think at this point you've got to accept that they are going down. But who joins them still quite up for grabs?
I personally think Bournemouth and Southampton do go down. I think neither of them have got the quality. They've missed their window now to improve on that quality. Southampton, they're an absolute mess. Their management is all over the place. Their playing staff is just... They've got some really good players there, which confuses me as to why it's not gelling and why it's not working. And like you say, maybe it was the management. But then you look at Leeds, maybe now I think that they put themselves in a really precarious position with the premature sacking of Marsh.
I think if they'd kept on to him, they'd be staying up. I really do. I think getting rid of him might have actually cost them.
Yeah, well, I think the one thing you need in a turbulent season like this is some sort of consistency. You know, even if the manager isn't exactly in the best run of form, you at least want him. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I think it's a weird timing on the fact that it's only less than 2 weeks now since the window ended, and two clubs have sacked the managers. And it's, why would you wait till now and not do it 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, give your new manager time to make the signings that they want, rather than, you know, Marsh has made his signings, or Nathan Jones made his signings. You know what I mean? In January, and now 2 weeks later, you've got a new manager coming in that doesn't even want those players, but they're forced to work with them rather than having that window to adapt and bring in the players they want, players they need for the end of the season.
Yeah, well, I think as much as it pains me to say, Everton have done really, really well. With the bounce back, getting Sean Dyche, you know, a top manager at Premier League level at least. I think just because of that acquisition, I think they will stay up now.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them go down, but you know, it's probably not going to happen. I think Sean Dyche is probably going to bring a lot of steadiness to that ship, and
I can see him being there for a couple of years, like a fair few years.
Well, you know, they've got a project there now. I think down on the docks now. You know, the Everton stand. New stadium is starting to look like it's coming together now, and they got a new manager, new stadium on the way. There is investment there. I think the owners maybe need to have a little look at how they invest and where they invest, because it has been poor for a few years now. But with Dyche and the way that he's very savvy with the acquisitions that he makes, I think that he will be the right man for the job to keep them up there. Besides that, I think West Ham will be safe. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. I think it's going to be tight at both ends of the table this season, which is an enjoyable season for me.
I think it'll be Leeds, Bournemouth, Southampton going down, to be honest. As for who wins the league, I've got no idea. Do you know what I mean? 2 weeks ago, I said Arsenal, but I mean, they've not been up to it.
I still want to stay with Arsenal. I think I want to stay with Arsenal still, only because they've looked really good and they were due some sort of dip. And if, you know, a loss and a draw is that dip, then I think they'll be fine. But obviously, Wednesday's a massive game.
On for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think Man City will be looking at that Wednesday game now and thinking, you know, there was not a better time for this to happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a massive game. That it's way too early to call it a title decider. You know, we're only just kind of halfway through the season. But yeah, I think Arsenal will still win the league. City still don't look the same to me. They still look a little bit. I mean, I was looking at some passing maps earlier on the Athletic and seeing, you know, the passer value of Erling Haaland, and he's almost just non-existent in the build-up. You know, obviously he's got these goals and you can't discredit him for that, but he does really, really negatively affect the way that Manchester City are playing at the moment, and it does seem to have taken some sort of shift in their form and the way they're able to churn out results. And, you know, I hear a lot of pundits now saying, you know, City are going to go on 14, 15 game winning streak, but I don't see it. Honestly, I don't see it at the moment. They don't look like the same team as the last few years, and they've got a few players now that are getting, you know, into their 30s. Kevin De Bruyne, I think, is 31 now. You know, still a top player, but they've got to look about replacing him, and how do you replace a man that good? So,
yeah, and there's a couple of big games coming up as well, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? You've got Arsenal City on Wednesday. But they went back into European football on Thursday. You know, United have got Barcelona at the new camp. And that's the only English team playing this week. But then we're straight back into it. And I suppose with the European fixtures added into the calendar, it's going to be chaos in this last run-in. Do you know what I mean? For Arsenal or City, dropping out of Europe might actually be what they need.
Yeah. Well, I think Arsenal need, if they want to win the league, they're going to. I don't think they've got enough to go on both fronts. Honestly, I don't. especially the distances that you travel. You know, if you're playing Thursday, Sunday, then Wednesday, Saturday, you know, it's just going to be a bit difficult for them. Manchester United, that's a difficult one to call because I think they do have a really good squad. They're in a really good run of form, but Barcelona are also top of the Spanish league at the moment. They're looking really, really good. Xavi's got them playing some incredible football. So I think if you are going to go out, do it earlier rather than later.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then when it comes to the Champions League sides, Liverpool, that's really all we've got left.
But Real Madrid aren't going to be easy, are they?
Yeah, well, I think they're missing a lot of players, I think, at the moment. Madrid, Courtois out, I think Benzema's out.
It's a good time to play him, but I still
Yeah.
think they'll get the result.
Well, I mean, you look at Liverpool, they've been so poor. It's been a good week in terms of we've got Virgil van Dijk, Roberto Firmino, Diogo Jota, and Arthur back in training. Main one being Arthur there, obviously. So he's going to really be a boost for the squad. Then Luis Diaz will be back, I think, in 2 weeks or something like that. So we're going to have a lot of players coming back now. It's just, I think it's too little, too late. You know, I think it's just not good enough, honestly. If we can get top 4, I will be absolutely gobsmacked. I won't count us out because, I mean, unless Alisson starts scoring some hat tricks or something, but
they can do it. You know how to find the back of the net when it counts.
Well, I mean, if you're ever going to score 1 goal in your career, that's the one to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think going back to Leicester, I think if you're looking at it right now, where would you see, okay, we finish in this position, that's successful for us?
I mean, given the start of the season, I would say finishing 12th, 13th would be quite an achievement. But if we carry on the form we've got at the moment, I think 10th. I think if we can start to break into the top half of the table, that'd be a very, very successful season for us. Not to the extent of the last couple where, you know, we've been pushing for Europe and won the FA Cup. But if we can get a top half finish, given the start we had, I'd be happy with that. I really would, and I think most of our fans would be.
Yeah, well, I think obviously every position now that you move up in the league is worth about £20 million at most points. So, like you said, with the debts being paid off, the higher you can finish, obviously, the better. But I think, you know, even, only 2 years ago, Leicester were being talked about as, you know, the new Big Six in place of Arsenal. So it just shows you how fast the landscape of football changes.
Yeah.
I think Leicester, they've obviously, since 2016, have continued to be a really, really good side, pushing for Europe most seasons. I think it's a shame to see them have the start they have, but if they can bounce back now, and especially on piggybacking off James Maddison, who's just absolutely outstanding footballer.
And that's the thing as well with Maddison, you know, finishing as high as we can this season is going to be key in whether we keep him or not. You know, Newcastle are still interested. There's talk of Arsenal being interested, which I don't see how we would fit in at Arsenal, to be honest. I think if we're going to go somewhere, it should be Newcastle. But, I mean, finishing, even if it's not going to be getting into Europe or pushing for silverware this season, we need to finish as high as we can just to hold on to these players. And even if they do go, attract decent replacements. Do you know what I mean? We are better than a mid-table side. We should be pushing for Europe. But you know what I mean? One mid-table finish, and you kind of look at Leicester and go, don't want to join them.
Yeah, I understand. I think obviously Leicester have been world class in their recruitment for a long time. Obviously, N'Golo Kante and Riyad Mahrez, Jamie Vardy, all these players were very, very cheap, and they continue to do that with Soumare, who's come in on the cheap, and a lot of players coming in that maybe haven't really hit those heights that you'd expect them to. I think they will keep hold of James Maddison just because Newcastle seem to be playing with a flat 3 in the midfield at the moment, and I don't know if that's particularly Maddison's cup of tea, and I don't think that he's going to get in on the wing sides either. That's going to be a difficult one. I hope he stays at Leicester, personally.
I do. I think he's what we need. I think without him, we're a very different side.
Yeah, I think, again, if you look at who's in for him in Newcastle, you've just got to be hoping that they don't get that top 4, because then it's going to be very difficult for Maddison to say, no, you know what, I'll stay here.
I think a player we could afford to let go is Tielemans. Definitely, you know, he's had he's been linked with Arsenal and Newcastle as well. But he's someone that, he comes up with these goals when it matters, and they're all sensational strikes. But he's easier to replace. I mean, he's more of a central midfielder than a cam. There's so many players out there that could quite easily come in, replace Tielemans. You can get some big money for him, maybe like 45, 50 mil. I just don't see why we hold on to him so much and value him so much. Yeah, he's provided us with that sensational finish in the FA Cup and added that trophy to the cabinet that we've not had before. But so many other players could do that. Maddison, his play style is so unique, and what he can make out of nothing really brings value to the team. I just don't get that same feeling with Tielemans.
One thing with Tielemans is, I mean, how long is left on his contract now? I think it's 18 months at the moment. Or is it less?
I think it's less than that. I'll have a look now.
Potentially be a free agent in the summer.
He might be, actually, yeah.
If you do, then that's that is 30-40 million walking out on a free.
It expires this summer, yeah.
Wow.
I know, that's what I mean. We should have either sold him last summer when we were linked with a move to Arsenal or Newcastle, or held on to him, like turned down to a new contract. We didn't either.
Well, it's the same with, obviously, it doesn't make business sense to let your players, your top players, run down their contracts. Everyone says, "Oh, go and it's your last year," but realistically, if you've only got 2 years left on your current deal, I think you've got to start looking at either replenishing or selling on that player. Tielemans has been a good player. Don't think he's made a lot of progress in the last season or two, particularly. But there's been some top clubs looking at him. There's definitely money that you can get there. So I don't understand why he hasn't been moved on, or at least, unless there is talks of a new deal. But you'd probably be more clued in than that than me.
To be honest, I think 30, 40 million for him would be daylight robbery. When I go and watch him, I'm not that impressed. I think Dewsbury Hall will be, give it a season or two, a much better midfielder than Tielemans is. I think that 30 or 40 mil price tag comes from the FA Cup final. I really do. I think selling him for 20 mil, 25 is probably more where we should be at. But I mean, letting him go for free is just stupid. It really is. I've not heard anything for quite a while about a new deal. There was talk last season that, okay, if he doesn't go to Arsenal, he'll sign on a new contract. But talks of that have dried up massively. I think we are looking at letting him go.
I mean, has he earned a new deal, to be honest, though? Like, I understand that maybe in business sense it makes sense, but I mean... I
don't think he has. I think when
to me,
Happy Mendy comes into the side, Happy Mendy to me is more impressive than Tielemans, and that's not something I should be saying. Or like Dewsbury Hall, I know they play alongside each other quite often, so you can't say, oh, we've got a perfect replacement. But like, if Southampton go down, I'd quite happily take Ward-Prowse. He'll be cheaper because they've gone down. They need to move him on. I'd take Ward-Prowse as a Tielemans replacement any day of the week.
Yeah, well, even if Ward-Prowse is, I mean, athletically on the same profile, they're quite similar. They're not exactly explosive. They're not exactly the fastest players, but Ward-Prowse offers so much in terms of his technical ability and probably his leadership as well that I just don't see in Tielemans. I'm a neutral. I don't really watch Leicester week in, week out, but Tielemans never really seems to be intense. There's no intensity to his game.
No, I suppose we've got that little like Belgian contingent going on with Castagna, Tielemans, Faz now as well. But when Ricardo's fit, he's playing over Castagna. So it's not even like you've got they know each other on a national team level as well. Like let's just keep them all in the squad for that chemistry. Because Castagna's all right, yeah, don't get me wrong, he's a good player. But Ricardo's so much better, and when he is fit, he's much preferred on that right wing. So I don't know. I just think get him gone, but we should have done it last season. I really do.
Yeah. I think it's the same. It's the same at Liverpool. We let Mane go for a lot cheaper than we could have got for him because we let his contract run out. Firmino's contract's out in this summer. Milner, Ox, Adrian, all these players' contracts are expiring. It's like,
what's your thoughts on Firmino? Do you reckon you should keep him or not?
I'd love to keep him. Only because I think he adds so much to the squad. Even if he is, to be that sixth choice, which I don't think he would be, honestly. I think you've got Salah, Nunez, Gakpo, Jota, Diaz, Firmino, Elliott can play in that front three, Carvalho can play in that front three. You've got a lot of options there, but I think Firmino this season, when he has played, if he stayed fit, has looked head and shoulders above a few of our attackers. He's looked like he's been the calm in the middle of the storm, And I don't think there's any downside to signing him on. Get him 2-year contract extension, and even if you do move him on next summer, if he does show some sort of massive decline over the next summer, it's better to get 20-25 mil for him than let him walk for free this summer when he's still a top player.
I mean, you kind of touched on it there. He offers something that's so different and so unique. I don't think you can find that in another player on the market at the moment. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of like slightly more drop back, centre forward, kind of sometimes more of a cam, but with that flair that can change games instantly. Yeah, I don't think realistically, or at least on a shoestring budget like Liverpool have got, I don't think you can find a good replacement for him. I think if you want that sort of player, which Klopp's used quite a lot and it fits his system, I think Firmino is the only option. I really do. I don't see who could replace him.
Well, yeah, I think obviously Firmino being the false nine, he's dropped into that midfield area a lot, and he's helped out those eights with the creativity and with that running sometimes, with his defensive intensity. And I think this year you've seen Nunez play there a lot, and it seems that he's obviously a lot more of an advanced forward. He's trying to play behind the lines a lot more, which I like. It's different. It's something that's nice to see at Liverpool because we haven't seen it for a long time. But I still think you need that option where if the game seems like it's a little bit difficult to break the low block down, which we have done for a lot of this season, if teams go into a low block against us, like Everton will tonight, I suppose, it's going to show because we have no one in that hole. The eights don't get far forward enough. The fullbacks are struggling for form, and the creativity doesn't seem to be there at the moment. And Firmino can come into that side, drop into midfield, create from magical spaces, half spaces. You only need a yard. And yeah, like you say, there's no one out there that you look at and you go, if we get him in, he offers the same thing. I think Diogo Jota's maybe a hybrid. He can do that.
Yeah.
But not on the same level as Firmino. I think Elliott is a 10. I don't think he can play the false 9 because he can't play with his back to goal and he's not strong enough, I don't think. I just don't think, like you said, there's no one there that can really do the same job as he's done. There's obviously an evolution in Klopp's mind for the team, whether we're more direct now, which I think we're going to be sort of leaning towards. We're going to be more direct, and it's just talking myself in circles here. I want Firmino to stay. Nunez, I love him, but I don't know where it's all going to fit at the moment. It's just a lot of jigsaw pieces and no sort of final picture.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose if we look to start kind of wrapping it up a little bit for this week, who is the start, sub, sell? Who are the three choices we've got to make?
So we're going to go for the Manchester City. Again, I'm going to keep it in the same team this time. And I'm going to go Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, and Yaya Toure. Which I've been thinking about all day, and I still don't think I have the right answer because I don't want to sell either of those three.
Now, I'm going to straight away rule out Yaya Toure simply because I didn't watch him that much, so I can't give, maybe the best opinion on him. But I think De Bruyne and David Silva is a bit of a very difficult choice to make. I would lean personally more towards De Bruyne because he is a player that I've watched more of than David Silva, and some of the stuff he does is mind-blowing. I've heard great things about David Silva, but it's someone that I've never really sat down, watched and admired. So for me, it's quite a simple one, based literally on how much I've watched them. De Bruyne would start, David Silva on the bench, Yaya Toure's gone. Whether that's the right choice or not, I got no idea. But
well, that's the thing with this one. I think it's probably one of the ones that I've said so far it could go in any order for me. Honestly, I think I've seen all three of them in their pomp, and I've seen all three of them playing at the top level. And like you said, you didn't get to see Yaya Toure as much, but that season where he got, just incredible numbers, and the way he was running through midfields, and it was just incredible to watch. It's one of the best single seasons I've seen from a midfielder, definitely. That being said, I think I'm only going to sell him because his longevity isn't on in the same sort of stratosphere as the other two. I think at his peak he's at the same level as them, but in terms of longevity, he sort of dwindled a little bit earlier, and he also seemed to be a little bit of a, I don't think diva's the right word, but he seemed like he was a little bit of hard work sometimes, you know, putting curses on the club and that. But then the other two, like you said, I think it's just what you want from a midfielder personally. David Silva is an absolute magician. The way he played for Man City, he's arguably one of their best players ever, but so is De Bruyne. So I think just because I personally like a more balanced midfielder, I think I'm going to go with the same lineup as you in KDB, Silva, Toure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be the other way around. It could be mix and match. Honestly, those three unbelievable players, and I'd actually be very interested to see what the general consensus will be on that.
Yeah, I mean, let us know what your thoughts are if you're watching this bit on TikTok or in the comments section below. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up there for this week. We'll be back next Tuesday with another episode and another sub-start sell for you to make your minds up on. But that's all for this week.
Go and watch Liverpool probably lose to Everton now.
Yeah. Best way to spend your Monday, Ethan, isn't it?
Can't wait. Cannot wait.